If you're not already subscribed to this YouTube channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button now, along with the bell icon so you can be notified whenever a new video is posted. And if you're already subscribed, check and make sure that YouTube hasn't unsubscribed you. And of course, be sure to give the video a like as well as share it on your social media. The white supremacists hate that. And now, the Sunday address. 8 years ago, I posted a video called Why Roger Ailes Isn't Going Away. In it, I detailed how Roger Ailes, the infamous right-wing media figure, had worked for years in television, and that he then became a media consultant for Richard Nixon during his first campaign, and from there in the 1970s, he was involved in not one but two abortive attempts to start a right-wing news network. And then how in the 1990s, Roger Ailes ran into Rupert Murdoch, who fronted him the cash to start Fox News. Billions of dollars just to start a competitor to CNN. Ailes wasn't able to get it on his own, he had to have it handed to him. But this tradition of white media astroturfing didn't stop there. While people like Matt Drudge had been around the internet for several years, it wasn't until the Obama administration that the bottom feeders of the white right began heavily trying to establish an online presence equal to what they had had on AM radio and Fox News. And so we began seeing these right-wing blowhards who suddenly overnight seemed to be flush with tons of cash just getting shoved at them. But nobody knew where all this money was coming from. People like the Daily Wire, Tim Pool, Stephen Crowder, hell, even right-of-center pundits like the Young Turks found some of that sweet investor cash too. Richard Spencer was getting funded by William Regnery, a mega-millionaire publisher who used his fortune to fund Spencer's alt-right activities, among other white extremists. Recently, we've gotten a peek at where Tim Pool and others of these right-wing online mouthpieces have been getting their money from. Ben Shapiro got $4.7 million from a billionaire fracking mogul to start the Daily Wire. So the point is, these guys are sock puppets for rich investors. It's all a grift. The only thing, and I mean only thing, that's genuine about any of them is their anti-black racism. That's the only thing that they're actually honest about. Which is why all of these wealthy white supremacists give them money. They say the racist filth that these mega millionaires and billionaires can't. But it seems that there's still no honor among sleaze, because the guys over at the Daily Wire apparently have had yet another falling out. BS is seeing that sinking ship of his continuing to take on water. See, the problem that these white supremacists never figured out is all of their anti-black racism, while it is psychological masturbation, it's also nothing more than a giant distraction campaign on their part. See, if black people didn't exist, they would have had to make us up. It's a means for them to keep their attention off of pulling out the knives on each other. When you look at what's going on in the former Yugoslavia and what's going on today in Ukraine, this is what they would be doing if they didn't have black people to kick around. They need us to distract them from their own ethnic antagonisms. Anti-black racism can be a unifying principle, but with these guys, it only unifies them as long as they've got black people to fight against. If they think that they've won or if there's no black people around, that's when they go back to turning on each other. And we still see it today. What's the Daily Wire doing? Well, they're in trouble. And why wouldn't they be? Candace Owens is gone, their little tether black friend that they had. And now, apparently, she's getting more monthly views than Shapiro. See, that operation needs all the personality it can get. That's their problem. Shapiro can go ahead and do his fastest mouth in the South routine if he wants. But at the end of the day, he has no charisma. And a lot of those racists and bigots that he attracts, and he likes to keep them around, they want him to go in on Israel. See, that's the reason why they really started gravitating towards Candace Owens. Yeah, she's black and they don't like the fact that she's black, but they love the fact that she dumps on black people. That part they like. And she's taking aim at Israel. See, Ben Shapiro, he's thinking to himself that he's not going to do that. And at the end of the day, nah, you can't serve these white supremacists diet white supremacy. You can't think to yourself, well, if we just dump on black people, they'll forget about their anti-Semitism. No, sooner or later, you got to pay the piper. That little machine that they built apparently is slowing down more than a little bit. And this is why BS is trying to get some quickie attention for himself by saying he wants Trump to pardon the murderer Derek Chauvin's federal conviction. Sure, it won't get him out of prison because he still has to also serve his state sentence, and the governor of Minnesota is a Democrat, so they can't do what Greg Abbott did in Texas and pull an I'm white and I say so. But this is all about him trying to get some attention on himself. He's desperate to be relevant, and we can see why. BS was one of the never-Trumpers. He heaped tons of scorn on Trump and his staff back in the day. He wanted Trump to fail, the whole nine. But then, when Trump won office, Shapiro began to pivot because BS is a creature of self-interest. He only cares about two things, himself and hating black people. That's it. Like every anti-black racist, he has no principles or morals. All he has is a bunch of irrational impulses and demented drives. Ben Shapiro's always been full of crap. The only reason Daily Wire exists is because wealthy white racists ponied up the money for it, same way Breitbart was struggling as a blog until the billionaire tech investor Robert Mercer put his money behind it. It's all a right-wing grift. They're all trying to set up some sort of astroturf operation and monetize it. That's why the white media is so mystified and confused by the black media. When you got brothers like Tariq and others who make things like the Hidden Colors series, the white media and their acolytes are shocked by the fact that the funding is done and so quickly. They're used to having one sole rich, powerful white person, or at most 2 or 3 rich individuals, who fund multi-million-dollar endeavors and do it all on their own. But the idea of broad-based support is incomprehensible to them because they've never had to do it. We do what we do because it reflects what the masses want. The Ben Shapiros and other putrid propagandists are paid by some wealthy white financier to say what their sugar daddy wants. Problem is, doing the phony white victimhood shtick only goes so far, especially when you're the guys in power. You know, there's rumors floating around that allegedly the Daily Wire's bankrupt or coming close to it, which explains why their former CEOs decided to jump ship, or maybe he got pushed. It doesn't matter. And what is the next stop for this Jeremy Boring character? Probably a park bench or a highway underpass, but between now and then, the word in the gutter is he's going to try to become a, get this, filmmaker. No, I'm serious. Never mind the fact that he was also the quote-unquote CEO of the Daily Wire back when a few years ago BS was putting forward the idea of a pretend phony foray into becoming a media mogul himself. Remember that BS was talking about how he was going to make movies with Gina Carano, the washed-up MMA fighter turned flabby tough chick. Well, he did put out something that he called a movie. It looked like it cost $800 to produce, and that's about as much as it made at the box office. And what has BS done with Carano afterwards? Anyone heard anything? Me neither. In fact, I haven't heard anything from Gina Carano at all doing anything after that. So why did he even pull a stunt like that? It's because Carano had gotten herself fired from Disney, and a number of these online white supremacists made a cause celeb out of her because of her right-wing rantings. So BS saw a chance to get some quickie attention for himself and some subscriptions for his website by claiming that he was going to make movies with Gina Carano. Oh, she's going to be the next big thing. Instead, she turned out to be the next big nothing. All of that talk about trying to start some sort of parallel economy to the Disneys and the Hollywood system, that this was going to be the beginning of anti-woke cinema. Well, they had their grand closing right after their grand opening. There's simply not enough of these right-wing nut racists online to make a movie successful. That's what they refuse to accept about themselves. These clowns live to hate. They don't get enough state mental health disability money to buy movie tickets. Most of them are still in their mother's basements. That's why they have time to be online all day whining and complaining in comment sections that there's too many black people in movies these days. The anti-woke crowd may be noisy, but they're not profitable. That's why the studios don't listen to them, and won't listen to BS either. None of his anti-black screeds will translate into the kind of hundreds of millions of dollars that the studios want. So this boring character, he's already been part of one pathetic attempt at movie making, and it failed and became nothing more than an embarrassment. Now he claims he's going to hang out his shingle on his own and do it for himself, which will achieve the same results. But when it comes to these individuals who infest the putrid corners of the white right, you've probably noticed a pattern here, no doubt. All of these whiny, wannabe white media moguls, they turn into online hate merchants when they figure out that nobody's going to hire them to be in front of a camera. All of these clowns have tried one attempt or another at breaking into the entertainment business, either trying to be actors, comedians, movie makers, what have you, and they've all failed. Steve Bannon produced a movie or two 25 some odd years ago. Never heard of it? That's okay, nobody else did either. Andrew Breitbart kept whining about how the white right needs to be making movies or TV shows or something, but nobody was dumb enough to give that creep anything. Many of them tried to make it as actors or comedians, Steven Crowder, Michael Knowles. Seems all of these guys are frustrated entertainers who just couldn't cut it. But then again, there's more than a little truth to the saying that politicians are basically actors who are too ugly to cut it in Hollywood. And that's the reason why you got all these anti-black racists who are online now putting on a show. But it's not one that anyone wants to actually see. Even if there were one or two desperate has-beens who are willing to go slumming over in the Daily Wire cesspool, you think anybody wants to be associated with them after BS openly petitioned to pardon a twice-convicted murderer? Well, maybe Kevin Sorbo. He'll do anything for $1, he just won't do it very well. I can see him and Gina Carano doing a movie together. I can already think of the perfect title for it. Unemployed, a love story. See, that's the problem with the white right. They think that hating black people is the cure-all for everything because it's an obsession for them and they can't think about anything else. They simply don't understand that when it comes to general audiences, just because you slip in some anti-black imagery and tropes and narratives every once in a while, you can't make an entire entertainment economy based on that. Sure, anti-black racism is a guilty pleasure for a certain number of people who gravitate to the Ben Shapiros and others, but when it comes to a primary audience, you're not going to be basing big business off of that. These white right mouthpieces sustain themselves off of a love-hate relationship. They love to hate us. All their benefactors did was to help them get enough capital together to monetize it to a certain audience. This creates a self-perpetuating cycle, but it's only one that can continue so long as the economic and political playing field is tilted in their favor. And that's the reason for this evening's address. Yeah, the Daily Wire's having a falling out. These guys always do. But the problem is, as long as there happen to be these wealthy benefactors waiting in the wings to float these people millions of dollars to push their tripe, there will also continue to be more individuals just waiting to give you more BS. Good evening, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Jimmy Whitfield, Jamail Howard, Stephen 12, Anthony Pollard, and 2GB. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.